There is one thing that could totally destroy Christianity, and that is if the body of Jesus could be found, if the tomb was not empty. Now, Christianity has been around for 2,000 years, and no one has been able yet to come up with the body of Jesus. Yet some people have reasons they think why we haven't been able to find his body. So what I want to do today in this video is look at 3 explanations that are given for the empty tomb and then destroy those because we can see that they don't make any sense. The tomb that Jesus was in was empty because he had risen from the dead. But before we get into those, I want to make one point. Christianity began in Jerusalem, the same city in which Jesus died, where the tomb was. And you would think that if the disciples and the early Christians were going around and preaching about the resurrection of Jesus, that someone say, hey, wait a minute, the tomb's over here. Let's go take a look. And they would go and they would find the tomb and they would find Jesus was still there. But he wasn't there. It was very obvious he was no longer there in the tomb. So I want to just look here, first of all, at one passage today. Then we're just going to run through and hit a lot of points about why Jesus' body was no longer in the tomb. It says here in Luke chapter 24, verse 1-3, now on the first day of the week, very early in the morning, they and certain other women with them came to the tomb bringing the spices which they had prepared. But they found the stone rolled away from the tomb. Then they went in and did not find the body of the Lord Jesus. Now, why did they not find the body of the Lord Jesus? Because it wasn't there anymore. His body was no longer there in the tomb. So there are different explanations that are given for the empty tomb. So I just want to look at those today, okay? 3 of them, and I'm going to give you several points under each one why we can't accept these. So the first one that we have is that it was the wrong tomb. That it was the wrong tomb. Maybe the people just got confused and they went to the wrong tomb, and of course that tomb was empty because nobody was there. Well, that's really crazy when you think about it, because don't you think that people knew where it was? Look, here's the first one. The friends of Jesus knew where it was. I mean, this was the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea, and Nicodemus helped place him in the tomb, and the people were standing there watching. Don't you think that at least Joseph knew where his tomb was? So that one doesn't make any sense. The friends of Jesus knew exactly where it was. And matter of fact, we're told in Luke chapter 23, verse 55, that the women observed the place where he was laid. They were looking. Why? Because they wanted to come back to that place so they could put spices on him later on after the Sabbaths were over. And so they knew where it was. And the next reason we know that this was not the wrong tomb is because the angels knew where it was. I mean, the angels showed up and they told the women, what are you looking here among the dead for the living for? You know, he's not here, he's risen. So I think the angels probably had a pretty good idea of where the tomb was. I can't imagine them going to the wrong place, right? And the next reason that's not true is because surely the enemies knew where it was. I mean, they had to protect the tomb, the guards probably with their own lives. They had to protect it. I think they knew where it was. I think the Jews knew where it was. You think everybody in Jerusalem was mistaken on which tomb it was? I mean, that's ludicrous, right? And don't forget, by the way, that they had sealed the tomb. And usually when they would seal the tomb, they would do something like put a rope or a string across the stone and then put clay or something to stick it on both sides. And that way they would know if anybody had broken it and tried to get in. Well, you think that if they had the wrong tomb, that somebody would say, hey, wait a minute, where's that seal? Remember, they put a seal on it and it's not here anymore. What's going on with that, right? But nobody said that. So obviously it was the right tomb. Another reason that it wasn't the wrong tomb was that the grave clothes were there. I mean, they walked into the tomb and the grave clothes were laying there. Now, maybe somebody would have asked, hey, I'm not sure if this is the right tomb, but we have some grave clothes there. Surely they belong to Jesus. And the keeper of the cemetery be like, no, we had a resurrection last week when we haven't finished cleaning up yet. So this isn't the tomb of Jesus. I mean, that's crazy. His grave clothes were there. It's pretty obvious that that's the one that he was in. So that's one reason that some people might give. Well, they came to the wrong tomb. Okay, that wasn't really Jesus' tomb. So obviously he wasn't there. Well, that's just crazy. Well, let's look at the next explanation that some people might give, and this was that the disciples came and stole his body. Now, this one is really ridiculous because we are told where the origin of this idea come from, and it's explained there in the Bible. In Matthew chapter 28, it says that some of the guards came into the city and they told the chief priests, the body of Jesus is gone. I mean, what are we going to make of this? And these priests gave money to the soldiers and told them, go out there and say that the disciples took the body while you were sleeping. Now, there's so many things messed up with that. I mean, how would they know they were sleeping, right? How would they going to know that the disciples took him? And these guys aren't going to lie because they might lose their life for this. I mean, they're Roman soldiers. They're supposed to be able to protect this one dead guy in a tomb, right? Now he's not there anymore. Oh, well, the disciples came and took it. So we know where the origin of this excuse is from, and so it doesn't make any sense. And then we see the change in the disciples. So you think about this. If the disciples had actually come and taken the body of Jesus, would their lives have changed as drastically as they did? Would they have lived the rest of their lives willing to die? And we believe traditionally that many, maybe most of them, did die for their faith if they knew this was a lie. People just aren't going to die for something that they know is a lie. It's not going to transform their lives if they knew that they had Jesus' body hidden away in somebody's cellar somewhere. It's just not going to happen. And the next reason we know that this is not true is a question. How did they get past the guards? I mean, these Roman guards, they were professionals. They knew they weren't just gonna lollygag around. I mean, these guys, some people think that they were Jewish guards, but I think they were actually Roman guards, but it doesn't matter. I mean, these people knew what they were doing. How did they get past the guards, roll back the stone to the tomb, get in there and take the body, and the guards never knew it? Oh, well, the excuse is, well, they did it while they were sleeping. Yeah, really, right? Roman guards, and they were sleeping, and they made all that racket, getting the stone out of the way, and then they go down the tomb and they're carrying this body out. And they did that and nobody woke up. I mean, that's just crazy to think about, isn't it? And the next one, that Jesus appeared in person. Now, this is kind of a smoking gun, I think, right here. Because even if we didn't have the empty tomb, even if they did go to the wrong tomb, even if we don't know what tomb it was, and today, there's a tomb you can go to in Jerusalem, and is it the same one? We don't know, but let's just say they did forget what tomb it was. Let's just say that the Roman soldiers did go to sleep for a while at night. Jesus appeared to his friends. Jesus appeared to people. Paul even said more than 500 people at once, and we talked about that in previous videos. He showed up to people. Well, suddenly we don't have to worry so much about, was the tomb empty? Because there he was. If Jesus was here, then obviously he wasn't still in the tomb. And so he appeared, and that shows that the disciples didn't steal his body. I mean, he was alive as they come. And the next one we have, you may have heard of this, a reason that some people might give for the empty tomb, and it's called the swoon theory. It's called the swoon theory. And the swoon theory is that because when Jesus was on the cross, he was such bad physical condition. I mean, he'd been beaten and he was dehydrated and had so many problems, and he swooned and he fainted, and they couldn't tell that he was dead, that he was still alive. So they put him in the tomb, and he's down there in the tomb, and it's cool in there, and he starts to feel a little better, and he gets up and he unwinds all of these grave clothes that were wrapped around his arms. I have no idea how he would have done that, but that's the idea. And then he came out and he announced that he is now resurrected. Now, if you really think about this, that's just as stupid as the other ones, because first of all, the lack of evidence. You can't just say, well, I don't believe it happened the way that is traditionally understood, and I don't believe it happened the way that, the Bible or whatever text you're looking at says it happened. So I have this other theory. You can't come up with an alternate explanation without giving some kind of evidence why you don't believe something else. Anything is possible, right? There are so many things in this world that are possible, but you need to have something plausible when you're going to argue. You can say all kinds of things. Oh, yeah, sure. Jesus, he passed out and he came back to life. Okay, possible. Well, that'd be a real stretch, I think, for lots of reasons. How do you open the tomb from the inside, and things like that? It's about impossible. But let's say he did. Give me evidence. Give me something that says that this happened, because all the documents we have say that he rose. So understand, don't just give me something possible. Give me evidence for why you believe something that's contrary to everything that's written and everything that everybody believes. Okay, and there is no evidence for that. And another reason we know that he didn't just swoon, was that he died completely. Look at one of our previous videos. We talked about the fact that Jesus died all the way. Because after all, what good is a resurrection if there's no death? So Jesus completely died. He died all the way. And some of the reasons we gave for that was that the gospel writers claimed that he died. The Roman soldiers who were experiencing this, they claimed that he died. The disciples knew that he was dead. They prepared his body for burial, and no one said, oh, wow, look, the guy's breathing, or he's still a little warm. No, he was dead. So he didn't just swoon, okay? He didn't just swoon. And then the third one, I want to say this is the best one, but they're all just, this idea is so crazy. It'd be impossible for him to escape the tomb. So here's Jesus. He's inside the tomb, and he's beaten, all bloody and black and blue, and he's got a hole in his side, a hole up in his heart, a hole in his lungs. And he gets up, and well, his arms are wrapped to his body with these strips of cloth. He undoes them all and lays them there, and he pushes the stone from the inside, mind you, and he walks past these Roman guards who don't notice this bloody, filthy, nasty man walking past him who looks dead, but he's barely alive. Then he goes out and he appears before his disciples and says, hey, look, I'm risen. And they say, wow, what a miracle. No, can you imagine what he would have looked like? Imagine what he would have looked like coming out of the tomb there. So, it's just crazy to think that he just swooned and then he came up out of the tomb that way. And the last thing I want to look at is that the believers anticipated being raised like Jesus. I just want to read you a passage here from Romans 6, verse 5. For if we have been united together in the likeness of his death, certainly we also shall be in the likeness of his resurrection. And Paul wrote that, of course, but this was something they understood, that we are going to be raised like Jesus. Now, think about what the disciples would have thought. Wow, we're going to be raised like Jesus. Look at him. He's mostly dead. He's white as a sheet. His hair is all pulled out, and the hair on his head is matted down, and he's bloody, and he's gory, and he's gasping still for breath. He's got this hole in his lungs. But that's what we're going to be like when we're resurrected. No way. But he completely rose. He was healed. He was fine. He could still see. You could see the holes, but blood wasn't gushing out, right? He was alive. He didn't just swoon. He had an absolute miracle. A transformation took place there while he was in the tomb. No question about it. And so for these past several videos, we have looked at this idea of, did Jesus really rise from the dead? He was completely dead. We talked about the prophecies, not just other people's prophecies, but Jesus' own prophecies. We looked at eyewitness accounts and now the empty tomb. So my question is, do you believe? Do you trust in what Jesus did? You say, well, no. And I say, well, why not? There's different reasons people might not believe. One is intellectual. You just don't think it really happened. Okay, you need to go back and look at the evidence. Why do you believe that anything in history happened? And if you believe that, why don't you believe this? Maybe it's intellectual. Maybe you still need to understand more things. That's fine. Keep studying. Maybe it's emotional. You say, there's Christians who have hurt me. Or I don't feel like believing that. I don't know if I want to. I don't want to have to change my life. That's emotional. Maybe you just need to look at this a little better and understand when you become a believer, you're putting your faith in Jesus, not in other Christians. Christians are going to fail you, but you're putting your faith in what Jesus did to make the payment for you on the cross. And the third reason people might not believe is volitional. It's, I don't want to. Because if Jesus rose from the dead, that means that there is a God and I'm responsible to him. So why is it that you don't believe? What's salvation? Salvation is just looking at these evidences for Jesus and realizing that, yes, he rose from the dead. And yes, he died to make the payment for me, to satiate the Father's wrath for my sins. And all I've got to do is I've got to put my trust in what Jesus did. Just completely trust in him rather than in myself. And God will forgive me for my sins, not because of anything I've done, but because of what Jesus did on the cross. His death is enough to pay for everyone's sins. That's it in a nutshell. That's why Jesus died, and he proved who he was by rising from the dead. If you have any questions about that, contact me. I'd love to hear what you think about these videos. If they helped you at all, God bless you guys, and I'll see you next time.